morning, everyone. I'm the Election Administration Director at the New Organizing Institute, and today, for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to talk about the project that brought me to NOI, which is the Voting Information Project. I'm going to start with our origin story, highlight a few challenges that we've faced, and then a few key learnings that we've learned along the way. So in 2008, Google recognized that an overwhelming number of people were looking online for voting information, and in particular, the answer to the question, where do I vote? At the same time, the Pew Center on the States was wrapping up research for the report Being Online is Not Enough, which was an examination of how readily available voting information was on state election websites. And what they found was, at best, voters knew where to go to find this information on state websites, and it was super easy to find, and they were able to answer their questions. But on average, state election websites, which is the natural online home for this information, were incredibly difficult to navigate at times, and oftentimes didn't have the individualized answers to the super basic questions that folks needed to know to navigate the process, like how do I register to vote, who and what is on my ballot, and how do I find my polling place. So recognizing that gap, there was a beautiful marriage between Google with their tech prowess and Pew with their institutional knowledge about election administration that birthed the Voting Information Project. And in 2009, NOI was brought on board to manage the project. So the plan was to create an open data format that states could publish this voting information, and VIP would provide the technical assistance to publish this data in feeds pushing directly from state databases. And then Google would build an API on top of this data that was free and open to everyone, allowing folks to build tools on top of it, and finally meet that need where voters could find the information that they were looking for online. So we have faced sort of three main challenges over the last few years in the project. The first is gaining political buy-in in a climate where with what is at its heart a tech project, getting decision makers who have maybe never heard of an API to say yes to this project. The second is that as many entities seem to manage this data as it comes in formats. We've seen PDFs and GIFs and faxes that look like ransom letters that store this information. And the last is getting buy-in in cash-strapped election offices to put resources towards a non-compulsory project when they are facing lots of budget cuts and those sorts of things. But despite these challenges, we've seen great successes over the last several years. So we've gone from 9 states participating in our pilot year in 2008 to 20 states in 2010, and this last cycle having 40 states participating in the Voting Information Project, publishing voting information. And that's looked like going from 7.2 million people using the data in 2010 to over 25 million lookups for this voting information this past cycle. And I think that there are a few key things that have really allowed us to see that growth over the last several years. They include making spaces like this, GeekNet, where election officials have direct input on any changes to our voting standard and have had an active voice in developing it throughout the project. The second is creating tools that are specifically for election administrators to do their work easier. It creates not only buy-in because we're helping them free up resources that their office might not already have, but it also creates this feedback loop that election administrators have buy-in in making the data better. So this is a picture of our lead developer at the NOI office with the state election director of the state of New Jersey doing QA line by line of New Jersey voting address information. And then the last thing that we found is meeting states exactly where they are. So our publishing format is XML. We found that lots of states are not super competent at necessarily generating XML, so we've created software that allows them to just produce flat files that they're used to build these XML feeds. And then the last thing is the future of VIP. So we have 3 main things that we're working on doing now: expanding participation, both in the number of states and the data that they provide, further automating the process, and then working on getting states to take more ownership over the project. And at NOI, we are exploring new gaps that we might be able to fill with our organizing, data, and tech skills to help election administration further. I would be remiss not to mention that we're hiring. So if you are a developer that wants to work on super impactful projects and wants to work your ass off, come find me after this because we're looking for new folks. Thank you.